update. I'm Katie Shank with Keller Williams Realty, Atlanta Midtown. I'm here with my power team today to give you updates on Atlanta real estate the past week. Got Robby King, who's my business partner and buyer's agent there in the black, waving. We've got Jonathan Minsk with Ameris Bank, mortgage broker extraordinaire. And then today we have a special guest, is Lori King with First American Home Warranty. And she's going to be telling us all about home warranties and what they've been up to for the past 2 months now. So we'll have some good information for you today. So to start off, like we always do, we're going to go to Robby and talk about some stats. And he's going to talk about the past week, but also maybe the past few months. I think we're going to dig a little deeper today. So go ahead and take it, Robby.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so this week I did something a little different. So this is our, I don't know, is this our 8th call, I think?
It's the 8th week, yes.
It's our 8th call since the start of the COVID outbreak. And what we had been doing up until this point was just kind of measuring what the market looked like week by week, which has been helpful for us and hopefully helpful for anybody who's been watching this and, you know, helpful for people tuning in. But this time I actually wanted to kind of go back to the beginning of these calls and kind of compare it to what's happening last year, because as we've been looking at these numbers week over week, we've kind of gotten a sense of a few things and wanted to see if those assumptions were correct and kind of take what's happening in the market now and just compare it to last year. So what we've been doing, what we've been looking at is all of the activity inside the perimeter. So that's not just Atlanta, you know, that's East Point and College Park and Decatur and all of those towns. But we feel like that's, you know, an easy landmark for people to recognize and kind of get a sense of where you are, even though there's lots of micro markets in there. So I'm going to share something with you. I'm going to try to share my screen while I spout off all these numbers so you can follow along. And it's not for people to recognize and kind of, let's see. Can you all see that okay?
Yes.
Okay. So this is very interesting. So let's take a look. Average sales price, what I pulled April through mid-May, both in 2019 and this year, basically neck and neck, actually. The average sales price for 2019 is a little over $457,000. This year, a little over $455,000. So slightly lower this year, like 43/100ths%. So basically the same number as last year. And again, this is not just Atlanta, but it is Atlanta and Decatur. It's everything inside the perimeter. Median days on the market, again, basically the same amount of time on the market. 20 days in 2019, 19 days in 2020. Months of available inventory, even 3.8 months of available inventory. So we always like to look at that number because it gives us a sense of how much inventory do we have to sell based on demand from people who want to buy. So it's basically the same as last year, or almost exactly the same as last year. Median sales to list price ratio, slightly higher this year than last year. So that number basically tells us when a property hits the market, how much of that asking price did the seller achieve? Last year, 98.6%, this year, 99.1%. So this is where it gets interesting because this is some of the backup to what I think Katie and I have been seeing this year, but this sort of reaffirms what we were thinking and what our colleagues were thinking and other people in the industry have been saying. So new listings, March and April, were down a little over 22%. So not as much hitting the market. Also, pending sales and closed sales were down. So pending sales down 53%. That's just basically transactions changing from active to pending. And then closed sales down about 14%. So last statistic that we have on here is the active number of listings, like literally the active number of properties that are being marketed to buyers, slightly up at just a little over 1% this year. So let me stop sharing. So basically, if anybody wants a copy of that, I'm happy to send it around. Katie and I can send it around. We can send you a copy of it. But what we've been talking about and kind of hearing anecdotally was that the market in a lot of ways is the same as it was last year. Sales price and the amount of time that the property spends on the market, those are kind of the same. The amount of inventory to sell is basically the same as last year. And that sales to list price ratio, again, very similar to last year. So it's, you know, the nature of the transaction is very, very similar. There's just fewer of them happening, right? So if anything has gone down, it's not home values or the demand for housing in, you know, inside the perimeter. It's really just the number of transactions, the number of houses moving has slowed down a little bit. So what I glean from this is pretty much what we've been talking about for the last 8 calls or 7 calls, I guess is our 8th, which is, okay, if you're looking at the housing market and you're in the market to buy or sell, what is your advantage in this market? What is the thing that gives you a leg up? For buyers, a little bit less competition from other buyers that might not be, you know, where you're the only person putting an offer on a property. It might be that you're only competing against 1 or 2 other people instead of 6 or 7. But that's still helpful. It can be helpful if you're a buyer. And the leg up for sellers is what it has been for the last several years, which is that there's just critically low inventory. There's still much more demand than there is supply. So you definitely have a leg up if you're a seller and you need to list your property and you want to list at the correct price. You can definitely move your house very quickly. So that's my 2 cents.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes to everything he just said. And I love to see the numbers now that we've been talking with you again for about 8 weeks, and we share weekly stats with you, which is always informative and interesting. But now that we've got like a little bit of time behind us, it's really neat to compare that, you know, not only to last year, but to watch week by week how things have been progressing. And, you know, it just, again, reiterates everything we've been saying, that we are speaking the truth and these are real facts, you know, we're basing it on, which is great, because that's what we need right now. We need real information and numbers, and anybody who's interested in buying and selling right now, you will really benefit from those numbers and our knowledge and studying it, especially the past 2 months and then going forward, of course. So thank you, Robby. That's been great. I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit more about that too after we talk with our other people on the call. We are on Facebook Live, so hello Facebook Live to all people out there. We hope you're joining us, and we're all starting individual watch parties. If you guys on the call do that, just mute yourselves and mute your phones so that we don't hear it, because there's a backlash on that. If anybody on Facebook has any questions for us, you should be able to chat in the chat box on our Watch Live section. You can also join our Zoom if you want to, because there's a link there within our invite of our call. But really, if you're on Facebook, you could just go in the comments section and ask us any questions. So thank you. So anyway, we'll move on now to Jonathan Minsk with Ameris Mortgage, and he will give us a mortgage update of what's been going on there this past week and beyond. So take it away, Jonathan. Oh, I think you're muted. Look, I muted you. You're there.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
All right, great. So I don't really have any new statistics to report this week, but I will say that interest rates are still historically low. They're bouncing around from like 3 to 3.25. At one day, I think it was last week, I locked somebody in at 2.99% on a 30-year fix, which is the lowest that I've ever locked a 30-year fixed in my 25 years of doing this. So
Amazing.
it is. I mean, it's just a great time to buy right now.
Mm-hmm.
Not only because interest rates are so low, but as Robby had pointed out, you sort of have an advantage now if you get a jump start on, looking at houses before the masses, start to come back out of their houses and are going to be, looking to purchase. And that is going to happen. It's just later this year than it normally does. So, as Robby and Katie can attest, there are people that are out there actively looking for homes, and there are homes on the market to sell. So nothing has stopped from that standpoint. And then from a financing standpoint, nothing has changed, excuse me, on our end. We're still getting, purchases closed in 3 weeks, if need be. We're doing everything remotely. So, we're still operating at full capacity. Just about 95% of our employees are working from home, and it has not been an issue at all with technology. We're getting things like appraisal waivers more often, which means that if it meets a certain criteria, then an appraisal is not even required at all. And if it does require an appraisal, we're also seeing what's called a drive-by appraisal, which basically means the appraiser does not go into the property. They just go out to the property, take pictures to make sure that it exists, and then base their assessment on the pictures that are online in FMLS. And that's working really well as well. So people that are listing their houses don't have to, worry about, some random appraisal coming in their house. That's, not necessary. So, like I said, so everything is really moving along as it should. We're not having any problems with, timing appraisals, getting loans closed on time. I don't foresee interest rates really going up anytime in the near future. I think they're going to stay low, at least until the election. And, so I think that now is probably the very best time to pull the trigger, get out there, start looking, and find that house, when you have a fighting chance. Because again, once those floodgates open, then it's going to be interesting to see how that all pans out. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Katie.
Cool. Thank you, Jonathan. I do have a couple questions for you. So I'm just curious if you've seen, because Robby and I are really seeing this now over the last 2 weeks specifically, literally people coming out of their houses more, they're doing more things, but specifically they're wanting to go and see homes in person, or, at least talk to us more detail about their process. So I was curious if you've also seen the uptick in applications and things happening on that end.
Yeah, I'm getting the calls pretty frequently saying, that we want to do something soon, and is it too early to get pre-qualified if we're looking in the next, month or two? And I explain to people that when I pull their credit, it's good for 120 days. And as you very well know, in this market, when you get out there and you're actively looking, you're probably going to find something within a couple of weeks, and you're going to close, within 3 or 4 weeks after that. So, having your credit pulled a month or two before you're actually ready to make an offer is completely the right time to do it. What you don't want to do is find a property and then backtrack to get pre-qualified, especially if if there's multiple offers, you may lose a house.
Yeah.
There are definitely people out there that want to get pre-qualified, and they're getting ready to hit the streets looking soon. So
Good. Well, that's what, like I said, that's what we're seeing. And so we always, if they haven't already spoke with you or a mortgage lender that they know, we always direct them first, to the lender so that they can have their financing in order. And so it makes sense that you would also see the uptick that we are. And then the one other question I had off bat was, I actually was speaking with another friend that used to be a realtor in Atlanta, but she works as a closing attorney now in South Carolina, kind of a smaller town, Bluffton, South Carolina. And she mentioned that they were having, a lot of delays there. I mean, things are happening, but specifically with the lenders and with the closing attorneys, they're having delays. And I told her, we haven't had any of that. If anything, things are moving pretty smoothly. And I also haven't heard anything lately about, because we don't have a closing attorney with us today, but, we've talked with several that talk about the pulling of the title and some things from the government, that they need as far as, the government the status of them working and things like that, even the IRS. But I haven't heard of any delays in that lately. So I was going to, you've seen any of that?
The title runners here in Atlanta are able to get to the courthouse. It's a little bit more cumbersome process than before. We're getting the title work back relatively the same time frame that we were before all of this. So that's really an issue. What is taking a little bit longer is our payoffs. You know, servicers are so incredibly busy right now that usually you were able to get a payoff in 24 hours, and now it's taking, you know, upwards of a week. So you make sure that you order your payoffs, you know, on a timely manner to make sure that you get those payoffs on time. But no, I mean, we're getting our CDs out 5 days, at least 5 days before closing. And of course, by law, we have to get them out 3 days prior to closing. But our plan and goal is 5 days, and we're meeting that in about 100% of the cases, at least from my experience. And we're getting our packages, you know, there days early as well. So everything's flowing incredibly well within our, you know, our shop. So
good. Well, that's what I like to hear. And I just thought, you know, again, we're in different, that's why this is so important to talk about Atlanta. We're in Atlanta, we're selling real estate in Atlanta. So this is why we're sharing these details. Obviously you talk with your friends or family and people in different parts of the country or the world even, it's not the same. But if you're here with us, you know, we've got it handled, and there's no slowdown here, which is great. So anyway, so that said, we're going to move on to our special guest, who is Lori King with First American Home Warranty. And she's awesome. She's been someone that I've relied on for a long time when my clients are looking for a home warranty. And then when they have specific questions about what does the warranty cover, I'm always checking in with Lori, and she's always very helpful. So I'll let you tell us a little bit about what you do, Lori.
Thank you so much, Katie and Robby, for having me on here. I so appreciate it. So home warranty, I've been doing this for 7 years. It's definitely a part of the whole real estate transaction. I think it's important. It's essentially health insurance for your home. You have to have health insurance for your person. You should have health insurance for your home. So it's essentially the same thing, which is how I sell it. Definitely the whole unprecedented COVID-19 has definitely made some changes, just like in everybody's business. First American is based here in the United States and California, and then we have 3 call centers in different countries. So it took a week. Even the call centers in the other countries, First American moved everyone to their homes, which was an amazing task to do that in a week. I was surprised. So everybody's working from home. So we really haven't skipped a beat. And our contractors, you know, it's just a fine line, because when you place a claim, the process is going very quickly and smoothly, but some people do not want people in their homes, right? They're afraid to let a contractor come in their home. But all of our contractors are following the CDC guidelines. They wear the mask and they wear the booties over their shoes. And they usually have a call with the homeowners before they come out just to schedule the appointment. And they ask, you know, are you good with us coming in? You know, they ask those questions too. Have you coughed? Have you had a fever? You know, I think this is going to be part of everybody's regimen from now on, right? Have you been coughing? Because if so, I'm not coming. So, but just back to the nuts and bolts of a home warranty, we have 3 products. We have a residential product. It's when you're doing a closing within 60 days. And you can, the coverage starts the day you close. Offer a consumer product. So after you've already lived in the home, you're able to get a warranty on your property, which I think is great. A lot of people don't know that. And then our new product that we just have started during all of this COVID-19 is refinance product. So I'm super excited about it. It's a way for agents to touch their database, and it's a good conversation starter. So now, if you know somebody that's going through a refinance, or Jonathan, if you're doing a refinance for somebody, you can ask them now, would you like to put a home warranty on your property? And First American will cover them. And it's a 12-month product. For condos and townhomes, my top of the line is $475 in the Atlanta area. And for a single family, my top of the line is $540. And I think it's a great product and a great touch for agents to do for their downline. So yeah, I just, you know, it's just been just like everybody, right? You're just having to get used to a different way of life. Everything's virtual, and but everybody's still working, just like you just said. It's Atlanta, so it's still a big city, and our contractors are still going out, and we haven't missed a beat as far as that's concerned. So
that's great. Sorry, I was muted.
Yeah.
I muted myself. That's good. And then what are you were gonna, maybe you haven't mentioned it yet, but you're gonna talk about another product that you have now.
The refinance product, that's our brand new one that we just started. I've had a few come in, but they started out in California first. So, and it's now 22% of our business that's coming in right now. Wow. Which has been a huge uptick for us because, you know, the market is changing a little bit, right? So, and our numbers are more national numbers, not so specific to Atlanta. So, but it's a 20% increase in the refi business, which has been really good. So, but here, I mean, it has slowed. I see where the agents, it just depends on what area of town you're in, but I mean, I'm still getting orders and I'm still having agents calling and that are still doing business. So it just hasn't changed.
Good.
I think it's been still the same. So
Lori, I have a question for you.
So,
sure.
As far as coverages go, what is the difference in coverage between a warranty for someone who's purchasing a home for the first time versus someone who's refinancing? And then also, is there a cost differential?
So we are offering the same pricing for our residential that's going through the purchase of a home. Our pricing is going to be the same for them as the refinance person. So they're going to get the same exact, because they're really going through a transaction. So that's why we kept the prices the same, because it's a refinance. So, and the coverage is the same. The price is a little different for my consumer policy. So if you, like Robby bought a, condo, he's lived there for 2 years and now he's decided he wants to have a home warranty on it. I have a friends and family sphere of influence pricing. It's a little bit higher than the residential pricing. You still get the same coverage, but the pricing is a little bit different, but it's worth it still too. So, and you can pay for that one monthly, which I like. That's an option. You don't have to pay for the full year up front. You can pay for it monthly.
And just real quick, on that plan, let's just say that you're paying monthly. Are you committing yourself to a year contract, or can you cancel like within,
You can cancel anytime with a 30-day written notice.
Okay. That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely, I don't know. I just feel like it's a no-brainer, but I'm obviously a warranty person. So I just, I think it's better to have protection than to not, especially with the systems today and the R22, and buyers are leery of the older systems, right? And the phasing out of the R22. And so they start questioning that, and they want the seller to put in a whole new system because they don't want to have to deal with that.
You're speaking about HVAC system, right?
Yes,
I'm sorry. Don't know what R22 is. Yeah.
I know. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yes, we're talking about the refrigerant that goes in an HVAC system, and so you certainly would rather have some protection than none at all if you have to replace an HVAC system because it's pricey.
Absolutely. Very pricey. We're very aware of that. Robby's about to talk about it.
Well, also, and such a strong seller's market, which is what we're dealing with, been dealing with for years. Some sellers are not as negotiable about things like that.
Sure.
And it's just, like you said, it's a no-brainer just to have that cushion, to have the home warranty is everything, because you just feel protected. And maybe you're, if you sometimes go to a seller in a certain circumstance in a hot neighborhood and they're priced right, and you say, well, we want all these concessions toward new systems, they might be like, no, I'm not doing that. But, you can probably talk them into buying warranty for you. So it's good to have. It's excellent.
It is good to have, and they can purchase, the buyers, if the seller doesn't agree, the buyers can still purchase it.
Completely.
Put it in their closing, monies that are due, or they can pay after closing as well. They can just put it on their credit after closing. So it's just definitely beneficial. But again, I sell it like, you know, it's similar to health insurance. It's just health insurance for your home.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, thank you, Lori. And one thing that I always try to get my sellers to do to kind of help this from the beginning, you know, well, several things. One, honestly, if they could get their home pre-inspected from the get-go to know, you know, what kind of shape are their systems in their home in general. But even if they've done that, an added value to that is to go ahead and get the seller coverage for the home warranty, because it doesn't cost them anything from day one, right? And then the entire time they're on the market, they've got the coverage so that if one day they wake up and their AC went out, they can call First American, they can have the service done. And then, you know, when the buyer comes to look at the home or to get their inspection, whatever, you know, we say that it's included in the sale already. They're already purchasing it for the buyer. So it usually gives the buyer a little bit of peace of mind, even if there is, you know, some issues or a system is older, you know, at least they're already getting the home warranty. So then like Robby doesn't have to turn around and then ask for the home warranty or ask for the repairs, you know, it's already there. So I think that's a really big asset for a seller to go ahead and, you know, offer off the bat and have in place, because, you know, especially if they're living in the home or they're not. If it's vacant, even if it's vacant, it's an even bigger drama when something happens and you don't live in the home and all of a sudden, there's no AC or there's a leak, you know, whatever it is. So having that warranty is really important. So I always encourage that for sellers. And do you want to speak a little bit about the pricing and how that works and the range of, if there's a range?
I'm going to touch on it just a little bit, and I'm going to be vague simply because we're on Facebook Live too. And if somebody's viewing in from Texas, the pricing is obviously different in Texas than it is here in Georgia. So I certainly don't want somebody to be upset if they're in another region and the pricing is different. So we are state by state on our pricing, but we do all offer a basic warranty. We have a mid-range warranty, and then we have a top of the line warranty. It's called the Eagle Premier, is the top of the line here in Atlanta. And we have separate pricing for condo and townhomes, which I think is wonderful, because obviously your square footage is different on a condo townhome versus a single family home. So,
so can I ask a question? Is the pricing on a condo or townhome, it would be less, right? Because it is a small.
It is less, yes.
And because you don't own the exterior, so that you don't have to worry about the roof and anything along those lines. Or
correct.
A home warranty probably would even cover the roof, but.
Correct. So First American covers the major mechanical systems and appliances within the walls of your home. So anything it covers a mechanical, so we don't cover any structure. So I get calls sometimes about the windows or I just lost my train of thought. The drain spouts, the gutters, my gosh, it just went away. Sorry. Are the gutters covered? Are the roofs covered? We don't do any structural coverage. We just do the mechanical coverage. So, and it is within the walls of the home. You know, we do have add-on options of septic, well, pools, you know, those things can be added on, which are obviously outside the structure of the home. So, but I would love to give more specific on pricing. If somebody would want to call in or whatever, I would love to give specific pricing. I don't know. I just feel bad doing it over the line. And if somebody's on here somewhere outside of Atlanta, I don't want them to.
No, that's okay. Well, that's why they need to reach out and ask us the questions specifically.
That's right. And Katie's very aware of the pricing. So if you want to call her, she can help you, or she can get you to me for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you made the point about the difference of condo townhome / single family, because they're totally different animals. So why would the price be the same when the roof, you know, is not a factor in a condo?
Right.
It's in a single family that is. So that's really good to know. And we'll get that pricing to anybody who has any questions about that. Feel free to shoot us a message. And so that said, we're on Facebook Live. Whoever's watching, hi. So if you guys have any questions, this would be a great time to throw them out here or say hello. I saw a few people saying hello. If you guys, all of you, want to look at your, you know, Facebook and see if anybody's asking any questions there. Did you, Jonathan or Robby, did you have any other questions for Lori? Because I know I asked a few, but I know there's some things.
It's not really a question. I'm going to have you send me a PDF of of the refinance,
Mhm.
and then I'll start sending that out with my paperwork to refinances, because I think I never even thought about that, but that makes so much sense.
Right.
was
I love
actually-
it.
Yeah.
I was
Awesome.
going to touch on that too. I think that's a great, I would love to pass along that information if you have anything.
Same. Mhm.
People that
I'll share it with all of y'all when we're off the call.
Yeah.
And then if you're sitting with somebody and they have questions about it and they're wanting to do a refinance, I'm very available and you can call anytime with any questions.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Because there are people that I sold to a couple years ago who
Oh, sure.
honestly makes sense to refinance at this time because
Mhm.
the rates are so crazy. So,
Yeah.
Right. No, I totally agree. So you could reach out to them and say, hey, are you refinancing at this time? And if so, you can get a home warranty. It's just another touch, right? And
Yeah.
everybody's looking for reasons to touch.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's a very helpful thing, especially now, because again, it's a money saver in the end. If you've got this
Mhm.
warranty
Huge.
and something happens, you freak out usually, and you're like, oh my gosh, how much is it going to cost me? But you have the warranty, at least you have a base, you know the amount,
Mhm.
the initial
Right.
amount, and then if it's beyond, it's usually still less expensive than calling, so-and-so to come out and do it, maybe more expensive.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And for me, I look at it as a value-added service to my customers.
Oh yeah.
I'm not selling them anything directly. This is available, and you might want to consider doing it now that you're refinancing your home.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So I was just going to check real quick if we have any questions. It's kind of, sometimes they don't pop up right away for me, but I was going to look on Facebook and see if we have any questions. And again, if y'all have any off the top of your head, just let me know. I don't see anything right now, but I also can't see all stuff. So just check it and let me know.
I'm taking a look. I don't see anything right now.
Yeah. There are definitely people there. They see us. We're here. We have all the answers. Just ask us questions. But we are recording this as we always do, and we share it back through our sphere for anybody who wants to see the recording. And we do little snippets to share throughout the week. So, we're always available whether you're on Facebook Live or not, obviously. Lori, did you have any questions for us from anything that we shared? I thought I'd ask you.
I had a question about the waiving of the appraisal.
Mhm.
So that's very interesting, right? That you can do that. And is there a certain guideline? Like, had you had to have an appraisal within the last year, or?
So the way that it works is both with refinances and purchase is that you run the loan through either desktop underwriting, which is Fannie Mae's underwriting system, or you run it through LP, which is Freddie Mac's underwriting system. And it'll come back in the findings and let you know whether it's eligible for an appraisal waiver. So it's not something that we randomly select and offer. It's based on Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac's decision. So, and it doesn't, we often are trying to figure out, okay, what actually triggers getting the appraisal waiver? And there really isn't a clear answer. It's not based on loan to value. It's not based on credit score. It's just, it looks at the overall loan, and I guess base it on the risk factors of the loan. And then just something interesting too, Fannie Mae system, DU, only looks at Zillow when it's comparing prices. So when you put in a price of, let's say you're doing a refinance and you put in what you think the value of the home is, it'll go and research Zillow. And if it's within a reasonable number, then that is one of the triggers of getting an appraisal waiver. Freddie Mac's underwriting system, LP, actually goes to multiple sources to determine whether you can get an appraisal waiver. So what we typically do is we'll run them both ways to see if we get an appraisal waiver, because that really does expedite the process. And it also gives the borrower, $400 to $500.
Sure.
So there's
It's amazing how everyone's adjusted. I'm sorry, Robby. It's amazing how everyone's companies have adjusted so well and so quickly, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, to keep the economy going, I mean, the housing market is crucial.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody's trying to do the best that they can to get past the hurdles. I mean, we've had past, closing attorneys on this call, and they're having to do, offer different methods of closing today than they never have done before. And of course, they have to get the lender's permission to do it, but you can now actually, close your transaction on a Zoom call.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's
Amazing.
there are guidelines, of course, with it, but you can literally sign all of your documents on a phone in your own home and FedEx them back to the closing attorney, and it'll fund that same day. So.
Yeah, I'm just going to speak to that because we don't have an attorney on here right now, but I am so impressed with the closing attorneys that we work with and all of the ones that I've been working with through these past, really 2.5 months, because some transactions were already, under contract and getting to the closing when this started. And then we've completed a few within the entire time that we're in it. And now we have more coming now that are about to close at the end of the month. So all of them have really been very smooth for everybody involved. But those closing attorneys, I mean, they're amazing. Like they need a cheers to closing attorneys because they're ultimately who closes and gets this thing finally done.
Absolutely, and they're working harder than they ever have, and for the same money. So I mean, they're really jumping in. What I'm interested to see is past us. What of these changes that have been put in place will stay. I think that every company, not just real estate related, that has experienced having to have their employees work remotely where they haven't before and have seen the success of it, are going to rethink about how they the way that they conduct business. And I think I've mentioned this before in past call. Personally, I'm curious to see, what's going to happen in the commercial real estate market, because, if companies are realizing that they can take less office space and work efficiently and more profitably by having a percentage of their employees work remotely, I think they're probably going to adapt that. So it'll be interesting.
I wonder about that too. And I wonder also if that's a multi-tiered question, because I know a lot of people, or some people that I know are starting to go back into the office.
Mm-hmm.
People who are in a corporate job are starting to go back into the office, and I'm like, well, those companies might be in the middle of a lease. So they're like, okay, let's get everybody back in, like we're paying for this space, and that's just all there is to it. And I wonder if people will start to go back in, and then Jonathan, like you say, maybe when lease negotiations come up, if they're going to be like, okay, let's start to think about the future, and if we really need all of this space, it's like people might start to filter back in, and then maybe they'll downsize a little bit later.
Yeah. And I think it's also going to have a lot to do with the type of business that it is. It's that really needs one-on-one interaction with the customer, or whether it's, you can do it from literally anywhere. So I would imagine, things like IT and marketing and things along those lines can be done remotely. But if you're, sales, and it requires a face-to-face interaction, then I think, maybe what companies will do is they'll just downsize the amount of space, So we'll see. I think it's going to be interesting. I think a lot is going to change as a result of this, not just the next month or 2 or 3. I just think it's going to be, businesses are going to be implementing changes that are going to take place, indefinitely.
Oh yeah, I think it's going to cascade for the next couple years or however long, for sure.
Yeah.
This is totally off of subject, but think about when 9/11 happened, right? You used to could walk somebody to the gate when they came to visit you, right? And now it's like that's such a norm that you can't even walk them to the gate. Like nobody thinks anything about it, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And I think that
the new normal, if you will.
The new normal. Yeah.
Yeah. Robby, you're going to say something. I know.
Well, now I'm distracted. Is that a creature?
I know. Is there a creature?
It's my dog.
Who is that?
Okay. He's ginormous and his name is Smalls.
Oh, we love creatures. Oh my God. He's huge.
Look at him. He's like, what are y'all doing?
Look at his tail.
He is a golden doodle, and my son is a big baseball player, and so after the Sandlot, he named him Smalls.
Oh, I love it. He's adorable. Is he a puppy?
No, he's 3 years old.
Oh,
he's so young.
He's a I always call him a giant puppy polar bear because that's what he looks like.
Smalls had a question. I don't know what it was. He interrupted Robby. Oh, there he is.
Oh, he does have a question.
Yeah.
Here's
And I
his
think that's for me, right?
Yeah.
This is when people mute you, Lori.
Right. Sorry.
No, but Robby, you were going to say something. I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, I was gonna say, so we talked about appraisal waiver, and maybe you touched on, are y'all still doing or sometimes doing like the drive-by appraisal?
Yeah. Again.
And what triggers that? Is that just anyone's guess too, or?
Yeah. So there's criteria on that. Like if an appraiser says I'm not going in, and depending on the type of transaction and the type of property it is, if it's a primary residence and a purchase transaction, depending on the LTV, we have the ability to say, okay, a drive-by is okay. But if it's a second home or an investment property, it has to be a full appraisal, period. Yeah, you're not going to get a waiver at all.
Gotcha.
It's just, you try to make the decisions that make sense.
Yeah.
And so, and again, this is something that, there's a finite amount of time that this is going to be offered, with especially the appraisal waivers. But then in the past, we've had these, temporary things come into play, and they end up just extending them or, keeping them for longer than expected. So really, who knows? I mean, it's all going to be based on risk factors and statistics. And they say they're going to do, I guarantee you there's going to be studies done to say, okay, the loans that didn't have an appraisal done at all, what's the default rate on those compared to the ones that had the appraisal, to see if there is any kind of correlation, between the two, which, I mean, there could be, I don't know. But so it'll be interesting to see down the road how these changes will be, kept in place, or whether they will just go away completely. So, but I'll keep you, these calls are for, to kind of let you know what's happening.
Let us know the newest thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing about my industry, and I found this from day one, is that when things happen, it's like the effective date was yesterday. You find out today that the effective date was yesterday. So there's not a lot of advance notice of changes that go into play. It's like, okay, this is now, what's happening. So advance notice, but I will definitely, keep my eyes and ears open for things that of interest along those lines that I think need to be shared on these calls, and let everybody know.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. I mean, that's why, having the consistency of having you on the calls every week has been really wonderful, because lending is, again, this is the process. Like, you come to myself or Robby or really even Jonathan first, and then, it opens up this whole transaction, whatever it is. If you're selling, if you're buying, if you're refinancing, we're all involved. So we thought having, a lender on all the calls every week was crucial, because without the financing, unless you're paying cash, it's not happening, and then with selling too, you need to know what's going on with lending, because as a seller, you think, oh, I don't need to worry about the loan process, but yeah, you do, because the buyer is getting a loan. So we need to know how that's going to work, and you have agents working with you that are educated on the types of loans that people are getting and doing, and we get all of this great information from our lender. Without that, we would not be able to work with you in a positive manner and get the best buyer for you too. So, and same with Lori and all of our vendors. We try to work with great people that are constantly staying up to date on what's going on, in the real estate market in Atlanta. I mean, especially now, but always. I mean, Jonathan was just saying before the call, he's been doing mortgages in Atlanta for 25 years. And I know it seems, way too long, because he's only, 30, but exactly. Shockingly, last night before I was going to bed, because, that's when all the crazy things come in your head, I was thinking about, my God, 2021 will be 20 years of me selling real estate in Atlanta. So I definitely am not old enough to be doing this for 20 years, but I have. And it's wild to think about, how long that is. And also, I hope that my experience has really, helped me to get where I am, and to get through a situation like this. So obviously, Jonathan and I have both worked, lived through and worked the 2007, 2008, 2009, crisis. And we talked a lot on these calls about how that is so different from now. And so I think that also benefits me that we've, lived through that and worked through that. And so it's, again, those are all crucial things that we continue to stay educated and aware, and that, this is temporary and we're going to get through this, and there'll be other wild things that happen, in the future. But the most important thing is, that we're all healthy and safe, and that we're here to answer your questions at any time, to talk about what's going on in Atlanta real estate. So that said, we have a few more minutes left, and I just wanted we just kind of went off on a tangent, but I thought I'd mention about the time. It's a while, because you just sometimes don't think about how long it's been. And even Lori mentioned a few minutes ago about 9/11. And that was the first year, my first year of real estate. I was licensed in July 2001. And of course, I'll never forget 9/11, like all of us won't, but I specifically won't forget it because I was working, showing property that day, and how that time for me was new. I was new in the business, and there was a lot going on, but I was working with someone, and we never stopped. And it's very similar to right now. We've never stopped. Robby and I have not stopped. None of our team has stopped. Obviously, we've taken time, to stay healthy and safe and be with our families and things, but we're still here working. And I think that's, really important, because all these things, different things happen, and things have happened since 2001 as well that have been, shaken up our economy and shaken up our world. But, we're here to take on the challenges with you. So
is y'all's office open?
Yeah, our office is technically, open. I mean, you can go there. Actually, our closing attorney that we work with all the time, O'Kelly and Sorhan, Carrie Fink, they're based out of our office.
Yeah.
They're there working all day, every day, her team. We're like on a skeleton crew, if you will, in our physical office. We've got our accounting person, and some admin people will go in there and work sometimes, but we're not sitting in our offices yet it's not necessary, because like Jonathan said, we can all work from home, and we're also out a lot now. Still, we're able to go into home safely and be with our clients. So we're just not working out at the office, but hopefully we'll be back there sometime sooner than later, but we can't access it. And we're just working on a skeleton crew there. So anyway.
I just thought of something too that we haven't really touched on this call that we have in the past, and that's comparison between what's going on right now and what happened in 2008.
Yeah.
And that they're really very, very different situations. In 2008, it was basically the housing market that brought down the economy, and just basically there was a period of time. When things were going to come back and how they were going to come back, and people's values crashed, and it was just an absolute nightmare for anybody working in any capacity in this industry. And as we've reported earlier in the call, that it's anything but that now. I mean, things are really booming for everybody. People are still out there buying. They're looking. They're getting pre-qualified. We're not having any valuation issues, so property values are staying stable. We're seeing, properties go into multiple offers, and, and sellers getting, full asking price and still not having any appraisal issues. So there's no comparison between what happened in 2008 and what's going on right now. And then also, I really believe that there's a finite end to this, and it's going to come sooner than later. So.
Yeah, I agree. I think so. I hope so. And regardless, we're working through it, and we're just being, again, safe and considerate. I just had a conversation with an agent earlier today that wants to show one of my listings. It's occupied. And, so we're taking like extra steps right now, and in respect that I'm helping schedule those appointments. We've got, at the property, we have not mask. We ask that you bring your own mask. We have gloves, we have booties for your shoes, or you can take your shoes off. We have hand sanitizers, we have Clorox wipes. I mean, this place is like clean as a whistle, but then we've got all these things there so that people feel comfortable, coming through, but especially the seller also feels comfortable people coming through their home. So like I said, even if the actual showings that we're having, we're just taking precautions that were necessary. And I don't think it's a bad thing anyway, not necessarily that we need to wear a mask forever, but I like that people are washing their hands more and, taking off their shoes. I mean, this is a thing that sometimes other clients of mine have had for years, rules about these things. They don't want people wearing shoes in the home, and they don't want people touching things. It's not that uncommon. So, again, safety is very important to us, and we're taking all the precautions. So
here's something that just popped into my mind. So conceivably, somebody could go through the entire process of buying a house with never leaving their living room.
They could, yeah, absolutely. And then we've heard of stories, yeah.
Yes, I mean, you think
virtual
this, okay?
tours, yeah.
Virtual tour, so you find the house of your dreams online. Everything
Absolutely.
can be signed electronically.
Yeah.
My whole process, I never meet my customer face to face until the closing, and even now, I don't even do that because I'm not going to.
You can't go to the closing.
And so technically you could go through the entire transaction on your computer.
Yep.
Buy a house and have never actually seen it.
You can.
Isn't there a commercial that says you date online, so why can't you buy a house online?
Exactly.
I think there's a commercial that says that.
It's true.
It's true. I mean, if you all tortured yourself like I did to watch Love is Blind, you know that people can get married without ever seeing someone. So we can make anything happen here. But no, it's really happening. And that's just, again, another point as with listings right now. Every listing that we take are getting a beautiful 3D Matterport virtual tour along with a professional photography. I mean, we're taking the extra steps to make this listing show its details online so that people can do the research ahead of time, whether they want to come and take a look at it in person or not. Most people are coming to look at it, but I've definitely spoke with several people that are relocating to Atlanta who cannot come physically to look at things. So these virtual tours are key so that if they wanted to make a decision prior to visiting, they could, or they could just have the information ready to go. And when they come here, they know what they're coming to look at, and hopefully they're writing an offer because they've already done, they've literally walked through the house virtually. So they just need to see it in person sometimes, and then it's a done deal.
Look, I have a question for you, Katie. So the first virtual listing I saw on your Facebook page, and I was so impressed by it.
Oh, thank you.
And so do you foresee that every listing is going to have that indefinitely? Because I think it's a great thing. I mean, I don't know what is involved in the cost associated with that. And then number two is, do you foresee by having those in place that people are going to look at fewer homes?
Yeah, yes, I say yes, and maybe yes and yes. So number one, yes, if Robby knows, like if we send a property to a buyer, and they, first of all, have ideally professional, good photographs. That's the first number one. Or do they have any photographs? Not with your iPhone. And then two, on top of it, if they have any kind of virtual tour or additional, photos or pictures or anything, it's always a big plus. The buyer is going to be much more likely to want to look at that property if it's the right fit. Or if it's not, at least it gets it off the list. They could see, oh no, we see that has a something silly, a green, kitchen or whatever, we can change that. But if they don't like it, they've seen the photos. With the virtual tours, absolutely. Right now, I would say for the foreseeable future, I'm absolutely offering that with all of my listing presentations and the sellers that I'm working with and talking to. And there's no reason for them to not want that to be done. And that is an expense that we take on as part of a listing agent. So we don't get into those details with the client, but that's a service that we're offering that is sort of an extra now. But I think that it is a huge benefit at any time. Right now, again, people are out less, but they're starting to come out more. But regardless, let's just pop to next summer and hopefully things are a lot different. I still think it would benefit my sellers greatly to have this 3D tours. Because again, I talked about relo, and that's the thing. A lot of people are coming from other places. They can't just call you and say, can I see this on Saturday? They need to do the research ahead of time and know what they're coming maybe to see when they visit, and be better prepared for what they're walking into. Because oftentimes, again, Robby can speak with this, working with more buyers, that you're walking into something that is not what you saw online, and that's a scary thing. And that's a unfortunate thing sometimes, especially for the buyer's agent too. That's like, what is this? I thought we were going to see this great house, and then it's not so great because the pictures, didn't really show that, right? Yeah. So yeah, I think it's something that we're going to continue to do you know, until I don't know when. But I do think it's a great benefit to everybody involved, to the sellers, most importantly, honestly, as a listing agent, and then to the buyers too, to just, you know, have that information.
It just gives such a much broader perspective of the home. You know, you really have a better feel, you know, for what you're going to look at. And like you said, you know, maybe it's not going to sell somebody on the house, but it may say take it off the list. You know, focus on houses that are better suited for them. So
it might sell somebody on the house.
And it might, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, many people have looked at it. It's the reason I have got feedback. It is the reason that we came to look at it, because again, there might be one, and we do a lot with condos and townhomes specifically. So there may be one down the street or next door, and they were just like, what is that? But then they saw ours and they're like, oh yeah, we want to come look at this, because look at this. It's beautiful, or look at the details. It has what I'm looking for. And the other one was very questionable, if you will. They might have not even come to the neighborhood, you know, if they didn't see the details that were involved in this property. So I think it makes you stand out for sure in a positive way. And we've got a lot of good feedback, even from other realtors. This particular company that we work with, I think, has been probably the busiest they've ever been in their lives. I know I've shared their information a lot, you know, with a lot of realtors. So a lot of people are working with them, as they should, if they want to, you know, do a good job for their sellers. So anyway, so it's about 6:27. I was just going to see if there's any other questions or anything on Facebook. I'm so happy we've been live today. So if anybody's out there, like I said, if you're watching, if you have any questions or want any information from this call, you can just reach out to any of us. And we have like the charts, that the stats that Robby was showing, obviously Lori's contact info and details on her warranty, and the pricing, obviously with Jonathan, his rates, and all the details about the different loans that he has for you. That's an individual conversation you guys can have, because everybody's situation is different. But you guys can reach out to us anytime. And like I said, we record these calls, and we're doing them every Wednesday from 5:30 to 6:30. And we're hoping that the Facebook gods will let us be live again next week, because we had challenges getting on the past few weeks.
I'm so glad it worked.
I know, but it worked today, so yay. So we'll be trying to get back on here again next week and share this with you guys again at the next call. We've got several really great people lined up to be special guests the next few weeks. We've got a financial planner, we've got an Allstate rep, and then I think we're going to have another closing attorney. It's another closing attorney coming back through again too, because the closing attorney is just like all of us. Things are constantly changing, so we like to get their updates as things have gone on. So anyway, so that kind of wraps it up, unless anybody else has anything to share, or I thought I saw a comment. Share or ask, let me know.
I'm going to email Katie. And if you will share with Jonathan and Robby.
Yes, absolutely.
The information. Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That'd be great. Especially if you could put it like in a PDF.
It is. It's in a PDF.
That's perfect.
Yeah. And then we'll send that out to everybody. We'll send that to our sphere. If it's something we can share on social media, we absolutely will, you know, or we'll put you in touch with Lori to get more specific details. So anyway, thank you guys so much. I'm going to end this portion of the call. Hope you have a great evening.
Thank you. Y'all too.
Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.